Hello. In today's video I want to talk about one of my favorite moments when developing my second game for the Playdate console, which was The Fall of Magic Castle. While I was developing the game, I came upon the idea of mixing the gameplay with a couple of other gameplay genres, a couple of moments where the player has to do something slightly different from the default top-down Zelda-like gameplay loop that we've all came to be quite accustomed with over the decades of gaming. And I did that with the help of a library framework called Panels. There is a specific section in the game where you come back home and you are supposed to be going straight to bed, but your sister insists on a bedtime story, and that bedtime story is then carried through the framework, the Panels framework. I have made some slight changes to the code so that if I hit B or A, yes, I'm gonna go directly into the story moment. The Panels framework is just about displaying interactive comics on the Playdate console. The way it works is that it just shows you a bunch of images with parallax scrolling that you can control by using the crank. As you can see here, I'm cranking in the simulator, and that moves the panel back and forth. And this is used to tell the bedtime story. You can combine images, you can have text, you can have text on image, so it lends itself quite well into making your own comic. The cool part is that you can also add a few more snippets of code into the framework and have something like a choose your own adventure style book, where you basically have to make choices. So suddenly there's also the option to interact with the comic itself, and there is an option to choose paths, choose different options, and the panel, if you coded it that way, will react accordingly, and you will see different content based on your choices. So I had a lot of fun with it, and it was one of the highlights of development for me, mostly because how well the framework is structured, how nice of a change it was to jump from like deep logic challenges into something that was made by somebody else. And it was one of those it just works moments, which are very, very pleasant while you're doing something complex. When it comes to the framework itself, it has a very nice looking website. It's a website / documentation page where you can learn all of the things that you might want to know about this particular framework. It is very easy to work with. It is well structured. There are no problems with downloading and implementing all of this. So they even have their own YouTube tutorial. So I'm not gonna talk too much about how this is connected with my code or anything like that. I just wanted to use the occasion to highlight one of my favorite moments of development. And just to gush a little bit about how nice of a tool it is. Quite a few games were made with it. I think that one of the most popular ones are The Botanist and To Dust. They are more of an interactive comic book rather than your traditional game. But those specific experiences are just carried by their art style, the creativity, the thought that went into creating those experiences. And there are also a couple of other games made with that as well. I would say that this kind of an engine / framework / library, I use those terms quite loosely, can be used to really great effect because of how easy to work with it is. When we take a look back into the code, you can see that the structure is similar to the data files that I've shown you in another video when I was talking about structuring the code and the data of a Playdate game. And here we have the same thing. Each panel, each slide is its own entity. It has a title, and each of those panels has their own, they're called layers, and you can have a multitude of layers. You can have an image on an image on an image. You can combine it with text. You can have just text. You can be very precise about the coordinates of all of this. So it is in essence very easy to work with, because it is constrained, but in a good way. It is supposed to show you text, it is supposed to show you media, it is supposed to be able to also branch out into specific scenarios, but it's not supposed to do anything more than that. Maybe the framework got updated, and that there are now more things that it can do, but I would say that what it already does is really fantastic. Changing the text, making some alterations, changing how specific inputs lead to specific targets, that was all very, very nice. As you can see here, there is an advanced controls option at the end where I can choose if I want to press B or press A, and then depending on the on my choice, I will go to either target 2, which is the left path of the dungeon in which the story takes place, or the third panel, which is the right path. So I think that anybody who is thinking about creating maybe a cutscene for a game, if you have static cutscenes in your game, then you can give them a little bit more motion, a little bit more animation by simply having this parallax scrolling effect. The width of the image can be much longer than that, so you can have that one continuous slide where you can play around with the dimensions of each slide, and you can also, like I said, branch out to just have your choose your own adventure style comic book. I think it works very well on itself, but also as an addition to an already existing game that works fantastically, because it breaks down a certain monotony that can creep into a gameplay loop and presents the player with a new way of interacting with the game, and that's always a positive in my book. And since it's so easy to work with, so easy to play around with, I would definitely recommend giving it a go. And one more thing that I wanted to mention here is that the way that I've made those images in the panels framework, that's something that I would like to talk about separately, because that was also another highlight of my development time. It was that moment when I was a little bit stuck in a couple of places, like with the combat system, with certain sprites and animations. I just knew that I have a ton of work still ahead of me, and it was one of those moments where you know what you have to do, you know how much time you have to spend, more or less, to get to that point, and the prospect of sitting down was quite daunting to me, because, well, not all aspects of coding are that interesting or that stimulating. So I decided to make a productive break by switching into doing something slightly different, which was still part of the plan, and both working with the framework and creating those images was a big joy. So in the next video, I'll talk a little bit more how I've made those specific screenshots, because they're in 3D, so that was suddenly a completely new paradigm compared to the top-down Zelda 2D look that is presented in the game throughout most of the game. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.